give you something just a little bit different today, because as I've been knitting on my Pink Fizz, this is my Pink Fizz sweater by Andrea Mowry that I've been working on quite diligently. I have noticed I have dropped a stitch. However, it's not a stitch in the usual sense. Excuse me. Because I'm actually holding two yarns together with this sweater. I'm holding my main yarn, and then I'm also holding a mohair together with it. So these two strands make up the yarn that I'm using for the sweater. What that means is sometimes I do drop, I do only pick up perhaps maybe this yarn or this yarn, and miss the other yarn. So that is what I have done today. So I'm going to show you that example. What this also means is when you drop a stitch ordinarily and you're only holding one fibre, usually that will be prone to laddering. So I usually use either a stitch marker like this that's got a little loop on it, or there's a lot of light bulb markers and things like that, but it needs to be something that opens so that you can take it out. I'm not going to take this out because this is marking my progress. I'll close that back up, but you can loop that through the stitch and that will prevent any further laddering. However, because this is two yarns, then when you catch at least one of them, that eliminates the laddering effect. So if I show you what I've done, hopefully you can see it quite nicely. It's just here. Let me kind of put my finger against it a bit more. I think you can just about see that. It's just this stitch here. So what I've actually done is I've only caught the mohair, and I haven't caught this yarn. So if I turn this over, you'll be able to see this a lot better. Let me make sure I don't drop any further stitches. But here it is. There we go. So it's here. This is the dropped stitch, so to speak. And then you can see that I've only picked up the mohair. I hope that is coming across well enough. But you can just about see that this is longer than it should be. It's missing a pearl bump essentially. So I've noticed where the stitch is that I want to fix, and it is quite a few rows down, but not to panic, this can be fixed, it's perfectly fine. So what I'm going to use are my knitting needles. They are going to stay on the work, and I'm going to utilise a crochet hook. Now I crochet anyway, so I always have these to hand, but this particular one I always have by the side of my sofa, just in case I do drop a stitch, because then I can fix it pretty quickly. But as you can see with this stitch, I've only just noticed it, so I've gone a few rows without noticing it. If you do drop a complete stitch, if you're only holding one yarn, for example, if you do drop a stitch, it tends to be a bit more noticeable because you start to get laddering. But as I say, with this, because I'm holding two together and I did catch one yarn, it won't ladder. So that's a good thing in a way, so you don't need to go back and fix it if you don't want to, but in this case I'm going to. So handy crochet hook. Now you can use a crochet hook that is the same size as your knitting needles, or you can use a crochet hook that's smaller. In this case I'm using a 2.5mm crochet hook. The only reason for that is because it's the one that's by the side of my sofa, and it just means that if I drop a stitch on a sock I can use it, because I use smaller needles for socks, so it's pretty handy. So I'm going to pop that there, because the first thing we need to do is we need to rip this ladder, this stitch all the way down to where our problem stitch is. So the way I do that is simply take this stitch off. I've knitted up to where the problem stitch is, take the stitch off. I'm going to take my crochet hook. Now you can use the knitting needle to do this, but because the ladder is so long, I'm going to use the crochet hook, but I will show you what I do. I mean, you can see that's coming out already. So I'm just going to make sure that put your knitting needle in between, but because it's mohair, we're going to have some sticking, if you will. I'm hoping you can see this well enough. So I'm going to get my crochet hook, I'm going to put it, so here's my dropped stitch, I'm going to put it in this leg here, and I'm going to pull gently, and that pulls that stitch free. I'm going to do the same again, keep going. Now again, because it's mohair, sometimes this happens with wool fibres as well, you can see that it's starting to get stuck. So the stitch is resistant to pulling back. So you just need to break gently, break those fibres so that it stops getting stuck. And then we keep going until, where is my stitch? Oh, it's quite a way down, isn't it? Keep going. I need to break that again. And then keep pulling out, breaking gently. Okay, we've got a couple more stitches to go. Oh, that is being very resistant. Now the only thing that you will find with a crochet hook, so you might want to use a double pointed needle for ripping back the ladder, is that the hook part tends to get a bit snagged. It's just the nature of a hook really, but if that doesn't bother you, carry on. So we're nearly there now actually. I'm just gonna pull that, there we go. Now when we reach this, the actual stitch that I want to fix, when you get below that, it's then going to start laddering naturally, so we have to be careful when we reach it. So we are there, I think. Yes, we're there. Okay, brilliant. So now that we are here at the stitch that I want to fix, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my crochet hook through that stitch. Oh, I haven't done that. I've dropped another stitch, I think. Yes, I have. So pull that out just to give me a bit more wiggle room. There we go. So make sure that you get your hook or your needle through there, through that stitch, so you don't drop any more stitches. You can use a light bulb marker, any stitch marker, anything like that. I'm just going to pull the ladders a bit. There we go. So they're a bit more open, if you will. So you can see, if I kind of pull that to a side, you can see all the ladders there. So these are all the stitches that I need to pick up. Now you can do this with your needles, so I'm going to show you with the needle, but this is going to be very tricky. In fact, it's going to be a bit too tricky because the ladder's too long. So if your ladder is extremely long, I would recommend, oh, there we go, I would recommend using a crochet hook or double pointed needles, because any needles not attached to your work will be very helpful. But doing it this way just means that you can see the ladder and you're not going to get any twisted stitches as you go back up. So the way I do this, take the crochet hook, I've got the last stitch on the hook. As you can see, this is the next stitch that I need to create. So we go through that work, through there, and then we pull that through the stitch, and we've picked up a stitch. I'll do that again. So I've got my stitch on my hook. Now this is our next ladder that we need to do. This was actually the drop stitch that I didn't pick up the other yarn for. So now I'm going to stitch on hook. Hook goes through the ladder. Make sure you've got that. Twist the hook so you've got it fixed on the hook. And then, oh, didn't pick up there we go. And pull through. Now just make sure that when you're doing that, that you do get both fibres, because the first time I tried that I did actually drop the mohair. So I'm going to do that again. Go through that, twist it and pull it through to make sure that the hook has got both fibres on, which it has. Great. And you just keep going up like that. When I get closer to when I get closer to the knitting needles, I'll actually show you how to do it with knitting needles. It is essentially very similar in the fact that you're just knitting the work. Yeah, that's quite a distance. But as you can see, if I give it a bit of a tug, you can see there's a little bit of extra tension there. You can start teasing the stitches so that they'll even out tension-wise. But yeah, just get it all done first. Yep, we're on. And then you can start having a look at the tension, but yeah, it's coming through quite nicely at the minute. Oh, there we go. Right, this is the last but one. There we go. So now we've only got one more stitch to put back on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this stitch back onto my left hand needle. I'm going to put the crochet hook down, and I'm going to show you how I do it with a knitting needle. So put your needle through as if to knit. Now please bear in mind I am an English knitter, so I throw my yarn with my right hand, but this is how I do it. So through the stitch, and then you want to give yourself a bit of slack. Look at the back, you can just about, this is not in focus is it, you can see this is the loose yarn that I need to pick up. It's this long bit here that's attached to both sides of the work. We don't want to use the working yarn, so I'm just going to move that out the way. So through there, through the stitch, and we're going to put the needle underneath that loose yarn. Make sure you can actually see what I'm doing. And then, as if knitting, just pull through, and then you've got your stitch. So I'm going to move that stitch, make sure you go through that leg so that the right hand leg is on the top and the left hand leg is at the back, and your stitch is the right orientation. So there we go. I'm just going to finish this row. As I say, I'm an English knitter, so I'm a thrower. I would like to learn continental, but I think that's something for the future, possibly. There we go. So I've just knitted there, and this is where I wish I'd put a marker in so I could show you, but there we go. I think you can see actually, because there's like a very loose tension there. But there we go. That is the stitch. It is picked up. If I show you the back, it is all picked up. Everything's picked up, which is fabulous. So to make that tension a bit better, I'm going to grab my longer needle, and then all you need to do here is just put your needle through the legs and give them a gentle tug. You can't really see that, can you? Give them go a gentle tug. This is just keeping, go, make sure you get both ends and give them all a gentle tug so that you're redistributing the yarn across. It's not necessary, it could probably fix in blocking, but if it's something that you don't particularly like, you can just go through and do that, and it will slowly start to, just do that one, there we go, it will slowly start to even out for you. But yeah, that is one way to re-even out the stitches if you so choose. So there you go, you got a twofer there. How I pick up dropped stitches. It works the same for if you've got a yarn, you know, if you're just using a, there you go, that's much better, isn't it? So when I pull that now, it's much better. So that technique is the same technique that I use for if I'm just holding a single yarn. But as I say, if you are holding a single yarn and you have dropped a stitch, you're more likely to get the lower stitches pulling out as well. So it's always nice to put in a stitch marker like this, or a bulb stitch marker, just to hold that yarn so that it doesn't drop any further until you've fixed it. But in this case, because it was two, the mohair was actually holding the stitch, so it wasn't laddering any further. But yes, that is how I pick up stitches if I have dropped them, and how I re-even the tension, so you got a little extra bonus in there as well. Thank you so much, and I hope that the video was helpful for you. And yeah, if you have any queries on any other techniques or things like that, I would be quite happy to do some more if you like this. So have a good one.